Stem cell research and human cloning. What should pro-lifers be doing about this, and why?
Well, it's important. I think that I came up with Whole Life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my organization, our website is iamwholelife.com,
Mm-hmm.
and sign the Whole Life Pledge today. And I came up with Whole Life because we seemed so focused on the fetus, the child in the womb,
Mm-hmm.
and we would be willing to sell the embryo and euthanasia and assisted suicide out just to prevent surgical abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that's not a very, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
that's pointless. That it's about protecting the human person from biological beginning
Mm-hmm.
to natural death, and that we need to treat the person as a whole. I'm against abortion not because I'm against killing the child in the womb. I'm against violence being used against the human person,
Right.
whether it's at the biological very beginning or at the end of life or at any stage in between. I mean, we need to protect the human person, and that's why I think we do need a human rights amendment to the Constitution federally that says that we take the founding principle and putting it in our founding document. And so I worked on the Say No to Amendment 2 campaign in Missouri. And this is very important. It's a very important issue.
Yeah.
And if we try to don't detach the embryo from the child in the womb, because you need to see that this is a human being.
Right.
And people say, well, that doesn't look like a human being. It looks exactly like a human being should look at that age.
Point, right?
I mean, because
Yeah.
it's a human being.
Assisted suicide and euthanasia. What should pro-lifers be doing about that?
Well, you know, why I started iamwholelife.com is when I was with Bobby Schindler on a speaking tour, pro-lifers would come up to him and say, I don't like what you did with your sister. I couldn't believe it.
What did he do with his sister?
Well, you shouldn't have gotten in the way of the husband.
Oh, gosh.
And that's what I couldn't believe it. And I said to Bobby, because we were doing a tour that called the Whole Life Tour for Senator Brownback, I said, Bobby, after this campaign, I'm going to take this whole life thing further, because we cannot forget about the end of life. We cannot forget about the end of life. And so much. And I'm post-abortive, so of course that's what animates me. I'm sure Bobby is most animated by the end of life.
Right.
And, you know, the sad thing is if we don't do something soon, 40 years from now, 30 years from now, there's going to be a Rachel's Vineyard for people who've lost their sisters the way Bobby did. And they're going to be standing up in front of the Supreme Court, and there'll be hundreds of families, just like now there are hundreds of women. So it's very important. We shouldn't lose hills that we already own. Sometimes I think as pro-lifers, we own a hill,
Right.
we march off the hill,
Right.
we let the enemy go to the top of the hill, dig in, put in fortifications, put in cannons, and then we look at the top of the hill and we go, charge.
Right.
Let's just not lose the hills that we own. So,
All right. I've got follow-up questions on that, but I'm going to have to wait till the next
Okay.
episode because we got 2 more questions.
Okay.
How should pro-lifers interact with those who are pro-abortion choice?
the apostolate of friendship, I find, is the most effective way. I have no friends who are pro-abortion. I don't have any friends. But many of my friends, when we met, were pro-abortion. My wife, on our first date, I remember thinking, I can't date this woman. I mean, she's beautiful. And then I gave her Peter Kraft's The Journey. And then on the second date, I gave her Fulton Sheen's Piece of Soul. And she was pro-life by the third date.
Nice.
And,
Well done.
And, you know, it's through the apostolate of friendship. And most people are pro-abortion because they've been because they've been propagandized, right? And like my wife was a New Yorker who went to all the right schools, who her only idea of what a conservative was or someone was pro-life was formed by the media. And then when she got to know me and through our friendship, and those stereotypes and prejudice can melt away. So first of all, but we need to be forceful. And with some friends and family members, I've gotten to the point where I said, you know, you're not allowed in my house. I wouldn't let a Nazi in my house.
Wow.
And I've talked to you for years, and you're still so hard-headed, and then you say things to my children. So there needs to be a line in the sand. And, you know, with my father, I drew that line in the sand, and then quickly thereafter he became pro-life.
Wow.
They need to know, we need to treat abortion like it is, child killing. It's very serious, but we need to be charitable and know that people who hold that position, those opinions have been formed from before they were aware that those opinions were being formed and the prejudices were being formed. So we need to be charitable. We need to be forceful. And, but through friendship is the best way.
What single thing should pro-lifers be doing that most are not doing right now?
there's something we can all do. We'll probably talk about this in our show. I've been wanting to write an article called What the Pro-Life Movement Needs is Less Unity. Well, what we can all be doing is prayer and penance. Mm-hmm. Prayer and sacrifice. Like 40 Days for Life is awesome because you want to hold the signs, hold the signs. Don't do it there if they don't want you to do it, but do it whenever you want. But we can all pray and sacrifice together. That is something we can all do. And then after that, when I say there's Russian officers in the pro-life movement, and there's American officers. A Russian officer, think of World War II. The Russian officer stood behind the troops, barked orders, and if you didn't do what they said, they'd shoot at you. Uh-huh. That's what the Russian officer did. The American officer said, pick up your rifle and follow me.
Right.
And they led. And if their men didn't follow them, then they got gunned down by themselves. But they didn't stand behind their men.
Right.
But guess what? They inspired their men to follow them. And so when most people say we need more unity, what they mean is, you need to do things the way I'm doing them. This is how I see it, and so this is how you should do it. And what I think is, and maybe this applies just to me, I'm not very smart, and I'm sure there are people out there that are much more clever than I, and they probably thought things that I'll never think of, and I might not even get it, but they're right. I think how much I've changed my mind in the 21 years I've been in the pro-life movement. Things that I used to think were very useful or effective are not. Things that I think are effective today, I might look back in a couple years.
Right, I'm the same way.
And so I really think people should do what they really feel called and animated to do. If you feel called to go to the pregnancy center and that's what makes you comfortable and happy, that is the most important thing for you to be doing because that's the front line of the abortion war. If you feel called to speak on college campuses, well, then you need to be on those college campuses because there's young women every day who are going to be in a position where they may have to decide to have an abortion. If you want to be involved in your local political party, well, then you need to because that's a special skill set. I don't like sitting under fluorescent lights, eating donuts with a bunch of people I don't like so much, and that's what politics is, So whatever it is you really feel called to do, that's what you should do. And when I disagree with people, I say we need to be unified in only one way, and that's charity. Because everyone who's in the pro-life movement is a hero. Because it's not an easy movement to be a part of. It's not light conversation. It's something very heavy to think about day in and day out. And so we need to be unified in charity. And I'm so grateful for anyone, even if I disagree with their tactics. We need to be so grateful that they have the courage to stand up and speak up for life. And whenever I meet someone who's been in the pro-life movement before 1989, I really like to just look and pay attention and appreciate them because I think this person was defending my daughter. They were speaking out for my daughter. Now, I might not like the tactics they're using, but guess what? I'm grateful to them. And they might be right, I might be wrong. So we need to be unified in charity. We need to stop being so unified. It's the invisible hand, right? Adam Smith's invisible hand. We just all do what we feel called to do and then be open to correction when our friends say, hey, I don't know if this is the best idea. And
but should we even do that? So here's my question: is if we should be, because I think I agree with some of what you're saying at the very least. I agree it's fine if everybody, and we were starting to talk about this in the car, but then we got sidetracked into something else. But all these different things, that's fine, that's great. I think there should be all these different types of ways that people can get involved. But you wouldn't say that every single thing pro-lifers do is helpful or as helpful as some other things.
Oh, I'm not saying it's all. No, I'm not saying it's all helpful at all. But it's not. Now, if it's sinful, right? If I see somebody doing something that I think is immoral or sinful or really counterproductive, which I don't really see that an awful lot where I think it's going to do that much damage. But,
sure.
But if I see someone that's doing something hurtful or sinful, I'm going to say, I'll bring them, I'll tell them, and then maybe bring two people with me to tell them next time the way we're supposed to.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't happen that often.
Right. So you're not actually saying like just whatever you feel called to, just go do that. There's some caveat in there.
I mean, there's a lot to do, right? There's organizations like National Right to Life, and that's in my mind more political,
right?
Oh,
sure.
And then good for them. And if you want to do Personhood USA, great. And if I think that personhood's the way to go, and someone else thinks Right to Life's the way to go, I think they're both the way to go. I think we need to push for it on all fronts. It's like a football team. This is another. I like analogies.
Okay.
So here's another analogy. Imagine you have a football team, and imagine the wide receiver, who's 180 pounds and he runs a 4.240, gets in an argument with the center, and he says, you are way too big. You're 350 pounds. Look at you. You need to get like me, slim and fast. And he's like, I'm a center. You need, and then the center's telling the receiver, you need to put on 200 pounds and get your bench press up to 500. What are you doing? I think that we need these groups, the groups that are established, and sometimes there's a little bit of conflict. They're all doing, I think, what they're supposed to be doing. And sometimes we feel called to work more within one and the other. I didn't feel any big existing group kind of fit my niche, so I created an organization around my niche.
Right.
And I think that's good. And if people think, well, there's no organization that exists the way I'd like to express my opinion, get a few of your friends together, hire an accountant, hire a lawyer, and start a group. Because I think the pie's not big enough. I think the pro-life movement is big. It's much big. It's going to get bigger and bigger and more diverse.
Right.
And they're all, I mean, being against abortion is not a really complicated thing. It's like morality 101. It's like ground zero. We don't kill our babies.
Okay, so just to challenge you a little, just to go a little bit deeper here, like when I see a debate as big and strategical as personhood versus incrementalism, I see two strategies, and I don't know which one is right. I've got my gut based on what I've read so far, but I could be totally wrong. Okay, but I see two basically very opposing viewpoints. They both think, at least the leaders of both sides, think that the other side is actually doing damage. Doing the incrementalists would say that by doing personhood, you're hurting their goals. You're going to make abortion take longer to make illegal. And the other side says the same thing. Judy Brown and everybody says that the incrementalists are these aren't even pro-life laws, and you're actually setting our movement back. So how do you take a look at both of these and say they're both doing the right thing, or they're both doing what they're supposed to be doing?
I wish they wouldn't even worry about it. How much time do we have here?
We have 148.
Okay, so here's the deal.
Okay.
Personhood USA.
Yeah.
I know they're bringing a lot of people into the pro-life movement that have not been involved for years and years and years.
That's true.
So how could that be bad? And National Right to Life, they're in Washington, D.C. doing things that no other groups are doing. How could that be bad? Mm-hmm. And now I will disagree with, I don't even like the incrementalist purists, because I think, again, we're all purists who want to get there incrementally. I don't think the Personhood USA people think they're going to do two bounding leaps to victory. No. We all recognize that to go 10 yards, we have to take 12 steps.
It's graded absolutism.
I mean, we all want the human being to be protected, and we all want to get there different. We shouldn't be Russian officers. I think that different groups should just do their own business. And I think sometimes it comes down to donors. Like, we want to get these donors, and this big donor went to that group or that. So what? Reach out. There's more. We need more and more people to be involved in the pro-life movement. Let's not worry about the folks that are already here. Let's just go out and say, this is our mission, like whole life, our idea of whole life. We really believe that we're about 10% of the people presently in the pro-life movement would identify with us. But we think that there's a lot of people outside of the movement that we're going to be able to pull in that other groups might not be able to reach. And so I think some groups are going to say whole life, and nuclear weapons, and drilling wells in Sudan. And what does that have to do with anything else? But so what? I don't care. I don't say what they want. We've got our method, and we've got our worldview, and we're going to do our thing and let them do their thing. And I'm grateful for them, and I hope they're grateful for us. And
all right, Jason Jones.
I love them.
Website is iamwholelife.com. Come check back in next week so we can talk more pro-life strategy, how we will actually end abortion.
You've been watching Life Report, pro-life talk, real-world answers. Life Report is produced by Right to Life of Central California. Visit their website at fresnoprolife.org.